Good evening, folks. Welcome back to Celtic Fans TV. It's transfer deadline day. There's less than 2 hours to go of the January transfer window. Thank you for joining us on this live stream. Apologies for the wee delay there. 300 of you with us already. Please, if you haven't already, like the stream, and we'll try and get as many of you on as possible to talk through this rather underwhelming deadline day so far. So we'll start with the big news from today that Celtic are closing in on a loan deal for Crystal Palace left-back Jeffrey Schlupp. Used to be at Leicester, of course, won the Premier League there. Has really fell out of favour recently. He's only played 170-odd minutes over 16 appearances this season. So, I mean, that's not a lot of minutes at all. He's been coming off the bench here and there for 10, 15 minutes. Barely kicked the ball, 32 years of age, out of contract in the summer. He's obviously going to be the player who takes up that left-back berth, or that second left-back berth, until Kieran Tierney arrives in the summer, which we're all hoping. That verbal agreement is there and it's going to stand and it's going to get confirmed in the summer. But Jeffrey Schlupp is, I think a lot of you might think it's a bit underwhelming. I understand that. Obviously, 32 years of age. Not the big signing we were looking for. I think everybody was so excited for Kieran Tierney to come back this month, and it hasn't transpired. And we'll come to the striker situation in a minute. Don't worry. But I think in terms of a short-term deal, Schlupp will probably do a job for us. I think he's a physical player. Who knows where his fitness is going to be at? He's obviously got a lot of experience playing down there in the Premier League, but he's clearly going to play back up to Greg Taylor over the next 4 or 5 months. I don't think there's any legs in getting him in permanently. Willoughby would want to do that. Again, you would doubt it. Kieran Tierney is going to be the man that comes in. Greg Taylor may well depart in the summer, which we know, but I don't think there's any chance we're going to convert a 32-year-old on a 6-month loan deal into a permanent signing in the summer. It is a bit of a sticking plaster to get us through this period. I can see a lot of you in the comments are really upset at the way this transfer window has unfolded, and the lack of movement, particularly when it comes to up front. There's been no real news today in terms of Celtic bringing in a striker. I think PLZ linked us with Danny Ings, but that seemed baseless to me. I can't find it anywhere else. Can't find any other sources even talking about it. I think that's one of those put 2 and 2 together and try and guess somebody who'll be in Brendan Rodgers' phone book. I suppose that might have worked with Schlupp though. So you can see why people might have been thinking that. I think it does lack imagination. It lacks planning, and that's the big takeaway from this situation. Brendan Rodgers has been very clear, and I think he was very clear again in the press conference yesterday that he expected deals to be done today. That the club knew the Kyogo situation. We knew that he was moving on, and I think that there should have been more contingencies, more plans in place to replace him. We're going to take a look at the squad in a minute. I want to try and get to some comments though. If you'll forgive me, I've got a wee cup of tea here because it's absolutely freezing in this studio tonight. It's not often I do a live stream at this time of night. I'll try and get to some of your questions and comments as we go through. Craig Mackey's saying makes sense till the summer. We'll have him, no problem. For cover, as I say, I think that's what it'll be. It will be cover for Greg Taylor. When you talk about Tierney coming in, you think he's going to be the person who succeeds Taylor. Whether Taylor's going to stay on or not at the end of the season. With Schlupp, it's definitely just to play backup. No doubt he'll come in. Brendan Rodgers rotated a lot this season. They look at Valle in the first half of the season, who was here on loan, still ended up playing the best part of 20 games. So there's no doubt that he will play a part, Jeffrey Schlupp. But again, it's just not that big name signing we were looking for. It's not Kieran Tierney. And when we come to talking about the situation at striker, I think that's the thing that most people have the biggest issue with. Tommy Smith, we are the striker and the left back we need. Don't ask me. I don't know where they are. Clearly not coming in terms of the striker. David, he is a free agent in the summer. He is, but I don't think there's any chance of us bringing him in the summer on a permanent basis. I don't think there's any need for it if Kieran Tierney's going to come back. And I think even if Greg Taylor does move on, probably looking for a younger deputy to Kieran Tierney, particularly given the question marks around how fit he can be and his his injury record, if he is going to 25, 30 games a season, then you need somebody maybe a bit younger who's going to be able to deputise if the worst case scenario happens and we can't get someone in. John Anthony Gorman, an absolute disgrace. They knew about Kyogo months ago. That's the big problem. That's the big thing for the club. It doesn't look good to lose your best striker and not be in a position to replace him. That does seem like a lack of planning. The club's recruitment operation has come under stick for numerous years. It seemed like when Ange Postecoglou came in, we were getting something right, but a lot of that was based on his knowledge of different markets that Celtic weren't used to. We had the debacle with Peter Lawwell coming back, and then Mark Lawwell being the head of recruitment for a period of time. That first window under Brendan Rodgers was a disaster. I think the exit of Lewis Palma means that Paulo Bernardo is the only one really still here. I know Mike Nawrocki's still here, but he cannot get a look in, and we'll come back to that in a minute when we look at the overview of the squad. So that transfer window was a disaster. And then it looked like, obviously, Kuhn was the big January signing last season. Ida came in last minute on loan, but Kuhn was the only permanent signing of last January. And he had a really poor start. He's picked up. He's been amazing this season. And then you thought in the summer that we were getting somewhere because we made big signings. I know that we paid a lot of money for Adam Ida, but we brought Engels in for 11 million. And it looked like there was clear signs that they were really backing Brendan Rodgers and we were maybe getting somewhere. Paul Tisdale has come in to oversee that sort of side of things and numerous other areas of the club. But this just doesn't help anybody. It certainly doesn't help Celtic with the image and the semantics around the recruitment operation, because when you lose someone like Kyogo, who's been such a key player and such an era-defining player, you look to have succession planning there. You look to have someone in as quickly as you can, but it doesn't look like it is going to happen. Emmett 1860, what do you think the chances Taylor extends? Katie and him would be ideal, in my opinion. I wouldn't rule it out. I know it seems like he's on the way out because this has dragged on for so long and he hasn't signed the contract. I don't think the club, if they'd agreed a contract with him, I don't think they would announce it before announcing the return of Kieran Tierney if that is as far down the line as people think it is. I think that there's maybe been numerous occasions recently where Celtic have managed the way that the news is released. And I think because of the journey Greg Taylor's had, and sometimes he comes in for a bit of stick, I think without the return of Tierney or another big name left back secured, I don't think they'd be in a rush to confirm that Greg Taylor had signed a new contract. So I can see him staying. I think, given that he's an able deputy to Tierney in terms of he's been here and done it, he's won trophies, he's been very good domestically for Celtic. We know that he can do a job. I think him and Kieran Tierney sharing a season in some way, particularly with Tierney's fitness concerns, I think that I can see that happening. We'll just need to wait and see how it develops. So let's have a look then at the Celtic squad as it stands, as we sit here right now at 9:10 on the transfer deadline day, 3rd of February. So we've got two new signing. Well, there's one new signing in the door, confirmed. Jota, obviously, on the left-hand side. You can see him highlighted in green. And I've put Jeffrey Schlupp in underneath Greg Taylor. He's also highlighted in green. I know it's not done yet. It's not official yet. He is supposed to be completing his medical in London, or was doing earlier on. So you'd expect that confirmation to come. But if you look at those areas of the pitch, what are the ones that scream out to you? I think striker is the one that is just glaringly at risk. Johnny Kenny, I've thrown him in there. He's only played 20 minutes against Ross County. Daniel Cummins came on the other night against Aston Villa. He is on the way to West Ham, it would appear. They tried to get him. I see David asking, where's Daniel Cummins? I chose not to put him in. You'll notice Dane Murray isn't in either. I'm not counting them as first team players yet. They're on the fringes. They've been involved. They've made one appearance in recent times, so I've not got them in this graphic. Daniel Cummins is on the way out. Celtic rejected an improved offer from West Ham to get him permanently today. it looks like he's going to sign a pre-contract and join West Ham in the summer. So again, left back looks like it will be sorted, and I think Schlupp could do his job. I think he'll be a big physical presence, different from Taylor. But again, at that stage of his career, not having played a lot of football, he'd just be concerned about where his natural fitness is at. You've got to hope he's in good shape and he's been looking after himself, despite the fact he hasn't been playing, because if he's only going to be here for 4 or 5 months and he's not match fit, you can't wait 3 months for him to get up to speed, because otherwise the signing is basically pointless. So other than that, I think midfield's fine. There was some speculation about Lennon Miller again last night. It seems baseless. I think Celtic's approach for Lennon Miller was earlier in the month. Talks didn't progress, and he's going to stay at Motherwell right now. Again, whether that's one that we go back in the summer and try and pursue, that's to be seen. I think Lennon Miller's obviously a brilliant player. There's been a lot of talk about him maybe going abroad. I know Motherwell rejected that bid from Udinese for £2.5 million. Looks like they're looking for 4 and upwards for Lennon Miller, which you can understand, given that it's rare for Motherwell to have a young player of that quality. I think I can see him playing for Celtic. I think it's actually a good next step for him. I know that the majority of supporters in this country outside Celtic think that Celtic's a bad move for someone like Lennon Miller, but I think it's ideal. I think it's an ideal next step. Again, you draw the comparisons with Turnbull, who made the next step to Celtic, and it didn't quite work out for him on any long-term basis. I think if Lennon Miller has got aspirations to play at the top level, the next best place to take that step is Celtic, because you get to play for the big club, you get to play in Europe, you get to deal with the pressure in front of a big crowd every second week. And then if he can do it and he can excel, then you would think 3 or 4 or 5 years down the line, Celtic can sell him on and he can go and play at the higher level, having had that experience of playing at a big club, but in a league that he's already familiar with, in a country and a lifestyle that he's already familiar with. I think it's a great next step. We'll see what happens in the summer with it if we do go back. There's always a risk that a big club does come in from Europe or even from England and give him a better contract than Celtic might be able to offer. But listen, you never know. Lofi, we signed the striker in the summer for £9 million. If we sign a bigger name, will Ida want to move on? Listen, I think Adam Ida has really stepped up in the last couple of weeks since Kyogo's gone out. It was interesting to hear him say in his post-match for Park yesterday, he wants to be the main man. I mean, that's probably no secret, of course, but he said, look, Kyogo was brilliant. I've got big shoes to fill, but I want to be the main man. That's the pressure I want. And to be fair to him, he has stepped up. It's only been a couple of games, but he looks like he's got a bit of confidence. He looks like he's willing to carry the responsibility of being the number 9, being the first choice striker. And like I say, that's a great opportunity for him. But I just think it leaves us a bit susceptible to the risks that you can get through a season. Injury, suspension. I think those issues, look at that again. If we end up, I know Dyson can come through and play there. That's what we saw the other day at Motherwell. He's done it. I mean, Brendan Rodgers is really keen to tell us that he's done it twice under him, started twice up front. He scored a hat-trick in a friendly game, by the way, which I think that's bold of Brendan to be counting that as a brilliant performance in that friendly game over in Japan. And then the 2 against Hibs earlier this season. So we know that he can deputise there, but if Ida ever gets injured, then we're left with Johnny Kenny as it stands, and we've got big games to negotiate in terms of the Champions League. And I know it's unrealistic to think that we're going to go any further and we're going to eliminate Bayern Munich, but we've also got a lot of games to navigate, trying to win a treble. The manager's rotated a lot, particularly in that position. There hasn't really been a position he hasn't rotated very much this season. Right back would probably be that, but Ralston did play at the weekend, so he's had the odd game. Kyogo and Ida have shared the minutes quite a lot. So what is the plan? Because if Maeda's going to share those minutes, he's going to have to start some games on the bench, and maybe Jota can play from the beginning games on the left-hand side. But if Maeda is to start on the left and then be moved through the middle like he was at Fir Park on Sunday, you've got to have a concern about Maeda's workload. I know that he looked a wee bit refreshed going through the middle at the weekend, but he puts so much into the game, Dyson Maeda. And I think if the plan is Maeda on the left-hand side, and then whenever we make a change and either comes off late in the game, then Maeda has to go through the middle and be the spearhead of the press and continue to put that running in. We know he can do it, but I think it's unreasonable to ask. I don't think there's adequate cover there in the striking department. I think that's the big problem. Back to your questions. David Teasdale, most cover is in the goalkeeping department where we only ever play Casper. I think that's a bit of a strange one, isn't it? I thought we might see Sinisalo at some point this season, maybe in some of the earlier cup rounds, which is the games you almost expect the backup goalkeeper to play. But I think because Casper's here for such a short period of time, obviously at the start of the season it was only for 12 months. He has extended that until the end of next season, but he probably wants to play all the time. And to be honest, we haven't really had what you would categorise as an easy cup game to throw him into. The first round against, the fourth round of the Scottish Cup was Kilmarnock at home, so it's a Premiership team. It's not really a game where you think, well, we'll make loads of changes. Could he play against Wraith Rovers at the weekend? I think it's a possibility, but at the end of the day, I still see Casper starting. So it is a weird one. I guess we'll never know where Sinisalo is at in terms of his ability to be a Celtic goalkeeper until we see him be a Celtic goalkeeper and actually play some games. When that will happen, I really don't know. 1,000 of you with us on the live stream. Thank you so much. If you haven't already, please like the stream, and we'll try and get as many on as we can. What do you think of the Mike Nawrocki situation? I mean, he's a goner, isn't he? He's as good as gone. I think bringing Dane Murray on at Villa Park was probably a nod that Nawrocki, if he has any future, that was it, over. I think it just hasn't worked out, has it? I mean, £4.5 million from Legia Warsaw, start of last season, part of that dreadful summer transfer window, where, as I say, only Paulo Bernardo has worked out. So I just think he doesn't look like he's got the mentality, and he hasn't adapted to life at Celtic, maybe life in Glasgow. Who knows? I know that's difficult when you come from a different country. You can't just expect everybody to hit the ground running and just fit in seamlessly. They're all human beings. They're all different. They all come from different backgrounds. They've all got different makeups. I just think Nawrocki, whenever he's played, he's looked weak. He's gone off injured a lot. He's had problems where he's been out with injury. And I think if you're going to be a centre half at Celtic, you need to be strong. You need to be robust. You need to be robust. You need to be mentally strong. And it's just not happened for Nawrocki. The only reason I think he's still here is probably because there wasn't enough interest in him to get a deal done to move him on. So I just think in the summer we'll try again in terms of Nawrocki and try and get him out. I think there has been an element this month of trying to get a lot of the Deadwood out, or guys who want to move on and get game time to kick on with their career. Stephen Welsh, obviously, one of those who's gone to Belgium. Lewis Palmer's gone out alone with an option to buy for £3.3 million. I think that would just about be break even on Lewis Palmer. Was it £3.5 million he came in for? You can correct me in the comments if that's wrong. So that's good. That's a good element of the transfer window. You want to get players out who aren't contributing, who aren't getting game time, and really are just dead weight. That's what you want to use the transfer window to do. I just want to bring up this comment. I know Lennon's daddy doesn't want to sign for Celtic. I'm sure there'll be lots of those. I'll take your word for now, but we'll see how that one develops in the summer. Chris, is it because our league position, they think there's no need to sign anyone in this window? That's a possibility. That I'm not quite as up to high though as I was this time last year on transfer deadline day when it looked like we weren't going to get a striker, and then Ida came in last minute. I know that it worked out because Ida scored a lot of big goals for us. We went on to win the title, won the Scottish Cup. He was brilliant. And then we have the situation where we bring him back permanently in the summer for £9 million. I think you could make the case that we have a strong position, a commanding lead in the Scottish Premiership, but that's not really an excuse to sit in your hands and not replace a key player, because that will come back to bite you, and it'll probably bite you in the summer when you're back at square one, still looking for a striker. And again, like we always see with Celtic, there can be this sort of domino effect where they're waiting on things to happen until they get their key targets in. And if we go to the end of the summer transfer window without another striker, is that going to cause us problems in a Champions League qualifier? That's the big risk. Like I say, we're trying to win a treble. The manager has rotated a lot in the first half of the season. And I just don't think he can do that now. I don't think he really has that luxury to rotate the strikers without signing someone, without bringing someone in. Unless Dyson Maida's going to be happy to sit on the bench and be the technically second choice striker and share the minutes through the middle with Ida, I just don't see how he can do that. I don't think Johnny Kenny or Daniel Cummins are in a position where they're going to play as many minutes as Kyogo did. And even the most positive of you in the comments can't make the case that that's how the rest of this season is going to play out. I just don't see it at all. Gary Buckets, Edward has played for Crystal Palace and Leicester this season, can't play for a third club. I have seen loads of people questioning whether we could bring Edward back. He was linked to a move to the MLS, I think, Atlanta, who were also interested in Tierney. Who were also interested in Kyogo. Still thinking about Tierney this late on in the window. But he can't. I don't think he can play for three teams in Europe. So that is gone, and that really would be like bringing the whole band back together if we brought Tierney back, Jota back, Edward. I've even seen some shouts for Moussa Dembele as well, but I think that one would be a bridge too far for Brendan Rodgers after the way that unfolded. Gordon Coney, we have no ambition other than to dominate domestically. This board are a joke. I think that's been the theme for as long as you can remember at Celtic. And as I say, I thought we were maybe getting somewhere in the summer with the investment the club made and some big players, Ida, Engels. I think the player trading model has been very, very successful for the club. But again, you always look for us to push on and to do more. We find ourselves in a situation in Europe, don't get me wrong, the ambition to dominate domestically is probably the ceiling for this season now, because can we realistically bring anybody in the next, or could we have brought anybody in this transfer window to put us in a position to beat Bayern Munich over two legs? No, we couldn't. But I understand people's frustration that when we find ourselves in this position, particularly with the financial strength of the club, we're not pushing on, we're not bringing in the number one target to replace Kyogo, because that's clearly Kvistgaard, and he's not coming. For the third transfer window, we've been linked with him. He's clearly the target. These things are not, I mean, throughout a transfer window, you get loads of rumours, and it's sometimes just baseless rubbish that people are absolutely guessing. And it gets worse and worse with how social media and how even the mainstream media functions in terms of clickbait online stuff. People just throw names out there. But I think when someone has been linked with the club for 12 months over 3 transfer windows, it's clear that there's interest there in Kvistgaard. And if we can't get him in with all the financial power that we've got right now, then when are we going to get him? As I say, he might just be a target that he's the one that got away and we miss out on him. But I think when you lose a key player in a window and you know it's coming, you've got to get yourself in a place where you're ready to replace him. And as I said the other day, you might not go and spend 10, 12 million and pay it out and bring that player in before Kyogo's gone, but can you get the negotiations to a point where you know the price that the selling club want, and you know that deal can be done? Because I think if you're not in that position in a negotiation and then your key player leaves, the selling club holds all the cards, and they will be trying to push you to as high a price as they possibly can. William McLaughlin, surely getting Jota and KT plus cover for Greg Taylor, we are stronger. I don't think you can count Kieran Tierney as stronger because he's actually no here. In the summer, absolutely, aye. In the summer, we'll be stronger for having Kieran Tierney. There's absolutely no two ways about that. But you can't count that just now. I think Jota's a brilliant signing. It was great to see him score yesterday. It was great to see the emotion in him. That's what football is all about, innit? And I don't think either of the pundits in the Sky studio, I don't think their opinion really holds any weight. That's what football is all about, and it was brilliant to see that emotion from him, because he clearly loves to be here, and he's relieved that he's back here, and he's got a fan base that loves him. He's going to be valued. He's going to have the chance to develop and grow again. in an environment where he's respected and loved, and I think that's massive for him. I think that's why he had that emotion yesterday. He's not going to cry after every goal that he scores for Celtic, but you can really understand where that was coming from yesterday. It was great to see, and great scenes in the stand as well. As I said to the boys at the full-time reaction, it's just brilliant to have a player like that. Celtic have always had players who have been great characters, great players, but they've got that affinity with the fan base, and I think that's so important for us. We've obviously lost one in Kyogo who had a great affinity with supporters, but it's great to get someone like Jota back. Cover for Greg Taylor, Jeffrey Schlupp will be that, and that ticks one of the boxes that I think we had to get done in this last couple of days, and I don't think we're going to get the other one done. So without a striker, I don't think you can say that we are stronger. You can let us know if you agree with that in the comments. John O'Neill, to be clear, I'm disappointed that striker has not been signed. I don't want one signed for the sake of it. I mean, that's with hindsight, you can say that. You can say you don't want to be over a barrel and overpay for somebody and then it doesn't work out and you're just scrambling to get someone in just to appease the demands of the supporters. But I don't think that's the case here. I think we need someone in, because if we have Kyogo and Ida and then we lose Kyogo, you're not stronger if you don't replace Kyogo. And I know that football transfers have become, certainly in the modern era, they've become this, it's almost like a parallel sport where people just want the new shiny player and the people are desperate for it. I understand that. And I think sometimes it's misplaced. I think particularly you think about a manager like Brendan Rodgers, who is really good at developing players, and the players he inherits, he often makes better. I think you can look at it and say, can we make the players that are here better? I think we can. I think the likes of Jota, for example, Brendan Rodgers is the ideal manager to do that and make them better and improve these players. But we just don't have the players in the striking department now. We've got Maeda, who can basically play out of position. Listen, I know that people say that he plays there for Japan. I just don't think that's enough. He's played for Celtic for 3 years and he's played as a left winger. He's played through the middle on a handful of occasions. And whether that system suits the Japan manager, I just don't think that's his natural position. So, as I say, it's a backup. It's a backup to put Maeda through there. So I just don't think it's enough not to replace Kyogo. I'd rather give Johnny Kenny his chance than signing a mediocre striker for the sake of it. I get that. I mean, if it was like a Danny Ings, 32 years of age at the end of his career, coming towards the end of his career, then you could make that case because of the lead we've got, how we're sitting domestically. Can this be his chance to get some minutes in a relatively controlled situation where we're not really tight in terms of our lead at the top, and he can have that. I mean, there's always pressure playing for Celtic, but he can have that sort of time where you've got a big lead in the table, and he can play his minutes and come in and out the team in maybe a more relaxed fashion. I don't think it will happen though. I don't think we'll see a huge number of minutes for Kenny between now and the end of the season. I think he looked bright when he came on at Ross County, but I've not seen enough of him yet. And it looked like Brendan Rodgers was saying he's going to be. We've brought him back. We're going to have a look at him, and we'll see if he needs to, or if he wants to go out on loan again to get more minutes than he'll get here. Then that's what will happen. But again, there's an hour and a half left of the transfer window, and he hasn't gone anywhere. So does that tell us that Brendan Rodgers is happy with what he's seen? And Johnny Kenny is also happy to bide his time and wait for his chance. I think that's what we'll see play out in the next few months. That'll be the proof of that. That's putting every question at tomorrow's press conference should be on the process that led to our main striker being allowed to leave with no replacement in place. There's no getting away from it that Brendan Rodgers is going to face a lot of questions about this if we don't bring anyone in. And listen, let's be clear, unless I've missed something while I've been on this stream, I've not been on looking at Twitter or anything, so you only keep me updated in the live chat. We've got less than an hour and a half to go. We're not going to bring in a striker. And Brendan Rodgers has been clear, I think, that the intention was to bring one in. And I think he said, I only seen it in a written form yesterday, so I didn't actually watch him saying it. But there was that quote from him yesterday saying, I came back to Celtic to enjoy it, and I don't want to do all the things that I did the first time round in terms of falling out with myself. And I think we saw that in the summer. Brendan Rodgers lives in this zone in between, like, he really chooses his words wisely. He's either very selective in terms of talking about how much the board have been supportive of him and how good they've been and how well set up the recruitment process is now compared to the first time he was here. And then he constantly pulls the levers to like remind the board that they need to get this work done, they need to get these players in. And obviously he was able to make light of it in the summer when he knew that Engels was coming in. I think it was at St Mirren where the phone goes and he says, "Oh, is that Michael saying to shut me up?" He obviously pulls those levers in the press conferences, and he did it again at the weekend. So if we don't bring someone in, he's going to face those questions again tomorrow in the build up to the Dundee game. I know that the thing I haven't spoke about is that him and Peter Lawwell were pictured at the airport today on the way to London. I mean, we thought, again, typical transfer deadline day, you get excited about what does that mean, but apparently they were just going for a dinner. I don't know. I mean, nobody can verify that sort of thing, but surely they weren't going to London to secure a loan deal for Jeffrey Schlupp. You wouldn't think so anyway. Right, there you go. Rodgers and Lawwell flew to London earlier, surely not just for Schlupp. No, they must have had some prior engagement. Who organised that for transfer deadline day? I don't know. Maybe the same person that sanctioned the sale of Kyogo without a replacement. There you go. Garden wouldn't have been 10 million plus if we'd moved on him at the start of the window. And we're now over a barrel on that one. Aye, sorry, bear with me. Aye, as I said, that's the situation you find yourself in. Could we have brought him in before the sale of Kyogo? We could have done. We've done it with players in other positions. We brought Bernardo in. Engels was, Matt O'Reilly was still here. And then O'Reilly went out the door. There is some examples where we have got the planning and the timing correct, but it doesn't look like we have this time. And as I say, I just think that's a problem for us. I know I could tell from a lot of the comments in the last live stream that I did that there was some people who are calm about the situation. And as I say, I'm not even as up in arms as I was last January. I think last January, given the situation the season was in, the way the team were playing, I think last January was on the verge of disaster, and we managed to get it right. We brought Ida in the last minute, but I think that's people's issue. The issue is that we always end up scrambling around, particularly in England, in the last day of a transfer window, just taking any loan deal that we can find. And again, you just have this ominous feeling that one day that won't work for us. One day we won't get the right loan deal, and it just won't work out the way it did last season. For example, for us, Brian Harkin, honestly, I believe Brendan Rodgers might walk because we did not replace Kyogo. Listen, I don't think there's any chance of that. I think he's going to be here for 3 years. I expect him to be a man of his word this time around. He's made that so abundantly clear that I think his reputation would be absolutely ruined if he didn't stay for that 3-year period. I think there's obviously, we'll see what he says tomorrow. Listen, we'll see what he says tomorrow. I think he'll obviously reel it back in from the comments at the weekend about not wanting to do the things that he did here first time. But listen, we'll see how it goes. Any other stories that I would miss today? We've talked about the Daniel Cummins one. Douglas Wallace, I'd take Lagerbielke back from 20. He's exceeding expectations and has huge potential. Unfortunately, his confidence has taken a blow. I was surprised I think I was surprised about how quickly Brendan Rodgers sort of dismissed Lagerbielke. I think that he was obviously nervy. He was particularly nervy in possession of the ball, and that doesn't suit a Brendan Rodgers team. But I mean, he was immediately bombed out, and he was on the bench. And a couple of, I think last January, he was actually on the cusp of going out, and then it was cancelled, wasn't it? It was that move to Italy, and he came back because it fell through. And he's gone out now at 20. He appears to be doing well, but I just don't think it's going to work for him at Celtic. Certainly not under Brendan Rodgers. So Martin Weir, Schlupp still not announced. Could it be? It'll be announced at 10:59 p.m. I would think, and maybe, who knows, Dermot Desmond, I'm sure he's got houses everywhere. Maybe that's where the meeting is. Maybe that's what the dinner is. Maybe they're still trying to get Brendan to sign another 3-year contract. Who knows? Right, we'll round up. Any last minute questions before I go? I'll maybe be with you for another 5 minutes. 1,300 of you. That is incredible. Like the stream if you haven't already. Not that there's much point in getting more people on because I'm about to leave yous. Let's see. Barry Collins, he won't walk away, but it may stop him from extending. He might not have done that anyway. I'm torn on it. I don't know where. I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know where his mind's at. I can't see him staying much longer than 3 years. Is there going to be maybe another extension and he'll do 4? I really don't see another 3-year contract. I don't see him doing 6 years when he did 4 the first time. I just don't see it. I don't think that's in his makeup. I think he'll go back and manage in England one day. I think it's clear that he's still of the calibre where he would get offers at clubs in England. Maybe the likes of West Ham, clubs of that nature, clubs of that size. I think they would still give Brendan Rodgers a job, and I think at some point in his career he'll go back and manage at that level. I'm not sure that Celtic, albeit that he tells us it fulfills him and he's back here for the right reasons and he's trying to fix his legacy from the way things unfolded the first time. I just don't think it can fulfill him for a period of 6 years. And that's sometimes the case with players as well. We are in a small league. We play everybody 3 and 4 times a season. There's not that same variety, the level of competition, and even, of course, the money. I know Brendan Rodgers certainly doesn't need the money at this stage in his career, but I just don't know what's going to happen with a contract extension. I really don't. Right, so before I go then, JJ is saying that's Schlupp signed. Just seen the announcement. Let me just confirm that for you before I go. I don't want to go and then we get a confirmation from the club. No, the club haven't confirmed it, so maybe it's a Fabrizio Romano one. Who knows? Right, last question before I go. Do you think they're holding the money to help pay for stadium upgrades? No, I don't. I think they're hoarding the money because, I mean, Peter Lawwell said this in his last chairman's statement. We need to prepare for the next time we don't qualify for the Champions League. And like I said last week, I think when the club has a 100, 120 million pound revenue and 40 odd million of it is made up of Champions League money, the first season you don't qualify for the or the next season you don't qualify for the Champions League, that is a problem. If you've took your wage bill to a certain level and you've took your transfer spending to a certain level, and then all of a sudden you're 40 million pound down on the previous year. I'm sure they are doing some stadium upgrades. I don't think it'll be to the tune of the financial power the club has got. And it's a very pessimistic outlook to say that we're keeping ourselves in the position where we can deal with the next time we don't qualify for the Champions League. I'd much rather speculate to accumulate and make sure we've got the squad in a place where it can consistently qualify for the Champions League. But the club might argue that can never be guaranteed. So there you go. I'm going to leave you with that tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been amazing to have more than 1,000 of you on for the majority of this stream. Listen to me ramble about transfers for 40 minutes. That's an incredible level of patience. So I'll be back with you tomorrow for the starting 11 prediction for Wednesday's game against Dundee. And if there's any remarkable late transfer news that I haven't discussed here that's going to unfold in the last, hour and 15 minutes, I'll talk about that then. But thank you so much for joining us. Please don't forget to like the stream. And as I say, I will see you tomorrow for the starting 11. Cheers.